Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. Today we watched actually I was supposed to watch Sound of Hope, and I did watch it. I started the watching process, but then at some point I think I paused to either somebody called me or I needed to eat or something like that, and then I came back and I forgot to press record again. So I ended up watching about 30 minutes more or less of the movie without actually recording anything. And then it was late at night and I didn't want to re-record things because I wanted a genuine reaction, so I didn't want to pretend or anything. But then I was like, a big chunk of the movie is now gone, and that big chunk was where crucial events of the movie took place. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to do a review. And then it got late, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the review later. Other movies came up, schoolwork came up, I got busy, and then I was like, all right, I need to finish the movie. So finally today I finished the movie, and wow. Let me just tell you, wow. I thought that I missed the most crucial and important parts of the movie, and trust me, I did not. A lot happened from then. I think I stopped watching around the 30-40 minute watch, a mark, and then I missed 30 minutes of that, and then because I was somewhere in the 1 hour mark when I realized I never recorded anything, and then I was like, oh right, I did not record anything, and it was too late from then. But after that 1 hour mark, the story developed a lot more. So I knew this movie was going to be about adoption, clearly from the description and just from recommendations of people. And so I was excited to watch it because I honestly am a big advocate, for adopting kids and helping kids, find a home. You get to teach them and show them love and grace and all those wonderful things. So this was something I was so excited to watch, to hear a real life true story of how this couple was able to do this for so many kids and help their community adopt so many kids. So when I started this movie, it immediately started by introducing Donna, and I believe, is her name Diana? No, her name is Donna. I'm forgetting her name, but for now, let's just call her Donna, right? The main character. The whole movie is narrated by her, and we get to see her interact with her mother. They have such a beautiful relationship, and her mother encourages her to have kids. And then her mother unfortunately passes away, and that wrecks her completely. You could see that she was depressed, struggling to focus, and just going through grief and pain. And then she was if I'm not mistaken, she was at outside, and she was just thinking about everything, trying to get through the grief. And then she has an inspiration moment, right, where she was breaking down, and then she could sense God calling her to adopt kids. Now that is one thing that I got confused by. I was confused specifically how. I think I'm gonna insert the clip right here so you can see my exact thoughts when I did watch that scene.
How he speaks without words.
Yeah.
But still,
I wonder, is this where she gets the inspiration to wanting to adopt the kids? But I wonder what made her. Was it just like seeing the kids running around? Yeah, so that's the one part that I was a bit okay about. And then the movie progressed, the movie continued, and then she finally got to adopt the legendary Terry. So Terry is another key important person in the story, and honestly, watching her story was so heartbreaking. She came from an abusive home. A lot of these kids came from abusive homes. A lot of them were difficult kids. That's why a lot of people wouldn't want to adopt them. And Terry, according to the movie, was one of the most difficult kids. She had a coping mechanism of pretending to be a cat at times, and she would have all these outbursts, and clearly you could tell that she was filled with so much trauma. And watching this movie, I didn't expect it to wreck me the way that it did. Honestly, seeing the struggles that Donna and her husband, right, WC, were going through for these kids was honestly a good reality check. I like the fact that it did not shy away from showing how difficult it is. I think that a lot of people, when they want to promote something, they try to avoid, the difficult parts of it. And I like the fact that, Suzanne is also a wonderful character in this movie. I believe she was one of the women like in charge of, helping connecting families with these kids. And at the beginning, they showed this video of the trauma a lot of these kids have, the wounds, the scars, the abuse, fresh out of those systems, and showing them that these kids, it wouldn't be an easy job, These kids have a lot of trauma, they have a lot of baggage. And I like the fact that we got to see that. And Donna came with her friend as well. And her friend, seeing all of that, was even convinced to taking one of the kids with herself, right? For herself as well, and joining Donna in this journey to want to also help these kids. And you could see that shift in Donna as well. She was coming from grief, but this was something that, she could put her heart in. She wanted to make her life meaningful and do something. And she decided to adopt her, convincing her husband to also adopt these kids. And one of the things I liked as was that they kind of showed how difficult it was in the sense of also financially, stress-wise. You could see WC was going through a lot of stress. He went to another church to ask for help, was struggling to pay bills. And during this one key scene where Donna and him had a big argument after Terry went through so many things. Donna was so close to giving up, and she was saying how she feels alone and how she needs help and how she can't do this anymore. And WC was also, venting, probably feeling attacked. Like, no, I'm also trying to, take care of everything. I also have a lot of things on my plate. I'm trying my best to help you. And they were just so filled with frustration. And one of the solutions they got to that was leaning on community. And that was one of the most beautiful parts of the movies. Just seeing the people gathered together and praying with each other, supporting one another. I felt like that was one of the most moving parts of the movie. At the church service, they all gathered together, kind of putting their arms around each other, praying for each other. And then you got this beautiful sequence, right? So then you'll be watching them praying for each other, visiting each other's homes, asking for assistance. Like some people would help clean up the house for each other, right? Because they were able to convince their community and a lot of people in their church to adopt these kids. And they were facing the same problem, right? Terry would have these outbursts, and she wouldn't just have outbursts, right? She was making quite risky decisions. Like there were a couple of times where she sneaked into a boy's room. She almost got herself, in high risk at school by flirting with the guys. And you could tell a lot of the decisions she was making was out of the past experiences that she had. And she was struggling to let go of that pain, struggling to let go, loving herself, accepting herself. And it's not easy to, right? Because clearly that's how she grew up. She was abused by her mom. If I'm not mistaken, her mom's boyfriend as well, or friends and something like that. She was beaten up. And you can see how much it has affected her and her receiving the love from other people. Donna did her best, to show Terry love, as well as the husband. They did their best to care for her. But at times, you could see how difficult it was for them to continue to show that care for her, just by how much, she was resisting that. And they had to learn this balance of, okay, how do we be strict? How do we be the parents? How do we show discipline and showing her that, no, you need to respect us? But at the same time, how do we show patience and love? And it was a journey for the both of them. It was a journey for the both of them to learn how to show love and continuously show love, even when it's really difficult to show love. Like there was instances where Terry would push and shove, Diana's biological daughter, or there'll be times where Terry would do some things that are completely disrespectful, like in the way she would dress, or things that the parents did not agree with. They didn't know how to set their boundaries and set their guards, without triggering something in her. Like Donna was trying to discipline her not to have the knife in her room, if I'm not mistaken, because, she was scared that somebody could attack her. And Donna was like, no, no one would attack you. But while reassuring her, she would be disrespectful. And you're like, you want to show them that, okay, now you need to respect me. But at the same time, you also want to show love and care and that they can feel safe around you. And I can't imagine how difficult that must have been. I can't imagine how overwhelming that must have been. I would feel so defeated. And I like the fact that WC reassured her by telling her that she's a good mom, because I believe any woman would feel as though they're making mistakes. As you could see, a year passed, time passed, and this was still going on. And they probably felt so miserable, and they felt like they probably made a mistake. And that breakdown scene where Donna was just like, you know what, I give up and everything, I felt that. All that effort and all the pain, I can't imagine having to go through that as well as taking care of her own daughter. Because at the very beginning of the movie, we see her son, right? He's also needs her help, also needs her support, also needs her presence, right? And also she wants to take care of her own biological kids. Having that balance, having all the stress going on with her, I love the fact that he brought her to her knees. And going back to the community praying for each other, you could see her crying and weeping and all the women gathered around her, hugging her and praying for her. She learned how to lean on God for strength, because honestly, you would need to really lean on God for strength like that. I can't imagine doing something like that on your own. And she felt so alone, and because she felt all that loneliness and things like that, that's what pushed her to want to cry out to God. And you had this beautiful scene where she was singing and praying, and you can tell that she was really asking God for strength, saying that, God, I can't do this for myself. And WC was able to hear it, and he sits by the door, and then he listens, and he also starts to sing as well, joining her in that. And even at the church, they were all singing, saying how the devil, I can't remember, I forgot what the song was, but they were all just singing together. She had to worship and pray and lean on community in order to continue to have the motivation to do this. And then, of course, that crazy moment comes in where Terry steals Donna's car after, she had an incident with this one guy at school. And I can imagine Donna's fear, and I had so much fear because you would see Terry going towards the lake, right? And I thought, oh my gosh, this is ill. I was going to be like, I didn't expect this to be a sad movie. I did not want this to be a sad movie. Why did this have to be a sad movie? I don't like sad movies. But then praise God, she comes out of the water, and I was confused what she was doing. So then I was like, okay, um should I be fearful? Should I just, I didn't know what to expect. And then Donna finally found her laying at the forest area, and she sits beside her and she asks, are you mad? And Donna's like, oh no, I'm not mad, giving her that peace and reassurance. And then it makes sense to me, because there was this scene where Terry watches someone get baptized, and then Donna's like, oh, this is when you become a new person. And I could understand, oh, that's what she was doing. She was baptizing herself. And I'm assuming that they were alluding to the fact that she was become a new person now, that she wants to change. And I was so sure that Suzanne was gonna take her away, but when Suzanne was like, "Okay, I think we hit a breakthrough. I think that we finally, things are pivoting," I was so relieved, and I found it so beautiful. Also, love the resilience and utmost confidence and passion that Donna had to continue to take care of the kids and adopt even more kids. I was so surprised when she adopted another kid, and then you got that welcome home sign. I was so surprised how much she was always defending. She was like, no, we're not letting go of Tay no matter what. Her and WC's determination was actually so inspiring. I think a lot of parents would have been like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not my kid. I'm going to give them back. But I like the fact that they really made that decision from the bottom of their hearts that this is going to be my child, and I'm never going to abandon my child. You could see that they stopped seeing this as these are adopted children, these are orphans, and now started seeing it as, okay, this is my child. You're part of my family. And Donna would reassure Terry, saying things like, you're my daughter, or oh, this doesn't happen in our house, treating her like it's her own child, even apologizing to Terry, when she said, how dare you push my daughter, reminding Terry that no, you're also my daughter, and she didn't mean what she said. Little instances like that showed me that they really truly did accept these children as their own, because ultimately I believe when you do adopt a child, it's no longer, okay, this is a child, but you accept them as your child. And I feel like that was such a beautiful thing. And the number one thing that I absolutely loved about this movie was the end, and that ending scene where they kind of showed the children's lives currently, the real life children. You can kind of see it was a split screen showing the children from the movie and then how they are now, and I found that actually so beautiful. That was the one thing that made me almost tear up. Throughout the movie I wasn't really tearing up, but closer to seeing that part I was like, wow, you really get to change a child's life. Your decision right now to adopt a child, it really gets to change them. And just before that, when I was just thinking about Terry's breakthrough, and when Donna, all that love and perseverance and prayer and breaking down and worship, Terry finally opens up to Donna and asks her, tells her how she feels as though her mom must have hated her, and then Donna reassures her, and she cries. There's a good, much needed cry, and I believe that that was such a beautiful moment where you can kind of see that Terry's finally letting go and starting her healing journey. And it must have taken a lot more time as well for it to completely heal. But I also just loved seeing that in the movie. I feel like that was so beautiful. Overall, that message was amazing. There was a particular scene in the movie with Donna and her husband that I was just like, okay, interesting. But other than that, the movie was pretty good. I didn't watch it in one sitting. I watched it a little bit, then I took a break, watched it a little bit, took a break. So I could be missing a lot of details. I could also not remember a lot of things. But I wanted to say this movie as fresh as I can versus over analyzing it or anything. What did you think of the movie? Did you watch this movie? What do you think of adoption? Do you feel like a movie like this would inspire you to also adopt? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment. And as usual, au revoir, à bientôt.